10 o'clock last night, so it's quite possible, and broke 3 copy machines in the
I
process. So,
figured that would stack you
it's
out.
quite possible that there's an out-of-order issue. Let me know if you run across it. Okay?
Which 3 so we can
Call
avoid
it on
them?
a second.
The one in security, and I wasn't able to fix it. The one by Brittany's desk, and I was able to fix it. And the one that's Doug's working on now, that I had working last night, but it's not working. Yeah. I also went through about 5 reads.
We couldn't tell.
Okay. I evidently enjoy time of application.
Do we keep these?
Yes, these
Okay.
are good questions.
Good.
Yours to keep, make notes on it, do what you want with it. Okay, I'm glad you asked that, I should have said that up front. This is yours to keep, okay? All right, second one we're gonna look at is for the Beam Team. The Beam Team is a merchandising customer, okay? So there's this whole market out there of people that will go out into stores all over the country and do random stuff, okay? They'll set up gift card designs, right? You walk into a Target and there's all the not gift cards, Hallmark cards. All the Hallmark cards are set up in a certain way, right? Or you walk in and there's a presentation, there's a display on Clinique Cosmetics, right? There's a whole market out there of going out and setting all that stuff up, right? Setting up plastic bag holders at Kroger's, right? That's what this one happens to be. There's a whole market out there for that, right? So this gets into kind of that more of that, hey, we have 15,000 available resources across the US, what do you want me to go do, right? It's not technical. This is not a technical job. This is a go screw in some bolts kind of job. But it's still something we can do, right? Okay. So this one is our standard SOW, okay? So any SOW you see written on what's called Barrister paper, this is what it's gonna look like, okay? This is kind of our standard, all right? The basic terms, it defines who the companies are. Scope of services, this one's about nine bullets. Arrive on site, contact the PM, remove all old crown fixtures and installation of new Hilux fixtures as defined in the installation guide, okay? So it points you to a separate document that is then incorporated into the scope of work, statement of work, all right? And that installation guide goes deep step by step by step of how to unscrew the bolt, how to screw in the bolt, how to attach the fixture, how to load the bags.
And where do we get those from?
Those are gonna come over, that would come over to you in this document with this statement of work, or you would get it on a kickoff call.
Okay,
We'll
gotcha.
talk about that right after.
Right.
Pack up the crown fixtures in the provided boxes and leave them in an area designated by the produce manager. Boxes include a prepaid shipping label. Installer captures a sign-off, final photos, and complete a project completion checklist PowerPoint for each store. Return deliverables to Barrister. Barrister emails sign-off forms and pictures to Beam Team within 24 hours of site completion. If we're on site longer than 4 hours, technician must call in to Barrister to speak with Beam Team for approval. Change order, right? Change order. Barrister PM will send the project's escalation email chain, Kroger bag fixture to beamteam.com for completion. Okay? Locations. We're gonna do this between February 2nd and February 20th. Attaches a spreadsheet, embedded in the document is a spreadsheet that lists out all the locations, okay? Pricing, $300 a site, okay? Any work needed over 4 hours on site will be approved by Beam Team before performed and invoiced at $45 per hour and 30-minute increments. Okay? So Krista, your question earlier of, hey, where do I get that rate? Typically, if it's a good SOW, it's already in there,
Okay.
right? We're putting it in there before, so that way everybody knows. Invoicing. So inside of all of our statements of work, all the Barrister statements of work, there will be a section on invoicing. There will be a section detailing out what the invoice will look like. You'll see on this printed copy the sample invoice, right? That's what their invoices are gonna look like. They want their invoices to look anything else? Change order. Okay? Oh, I forgot, I really wanted this column added to my invoice report. Too bad, change order. Cost me money. Okay? It also defines their payment terms, net 30. It defines how often we invoice them, weekly on Tuesdays. And it defines how long they have to dispute it. They got 5 days. They don't dispute it in 5 days, pound sand. Pay it as is. Okay, very tight, very controlled, very defined, how they can run through it. Reporting. Barrister will not be required to provide any reporting for this project. Barrister provide the Beam team access via a web portal to our service management tool for all information needed on service events completed. So Tiana, if you were the PM for this project and the customer said, hey, I need to get this report from you, what would you tell her?
No, we're not required to provide reporting for this project,
Okay,
and they can go to the BNT via the web access portal
mm-hmm,
for that information that's needed.
okay.
Um,
Anything else you tell them?
If they wanna report it, or. They just want to get the report, right? Yeah, so they would have to go to the portal to get that information.
Okay, anything else you'd offer? Think about it this way. Never want to tell a customer no,
Right,
okay? So as much as I say, we live and die to the SOW,
right.
we never want to tell a customer no. So, what we would say is, ma'am, I'd be more than happy to generate that report for you. However, our statement of work says I don't owe you a report. Therefore, to generate that report, I'm gonna have to execute a change order. Okay?
So you wouldn't offer up the information, Barrister will provide the Beam team access via a web portal?
Yeah, so, let me rephrase my response. What Tiana first said, yes.
Okay.
Hey, go to the portal. If she says, no, I need this report, I need it in this format, then you say, I'd love to help you. However, I can't because my SOW says I can't. So,
Whoa.
change order.
Even on just that, huh? And no dollar change on something like that though,
Depends.
right?
Depends on what it is. If it's something that's gonna take you 2 minutes to do,
Yeah,
no charge. Something that's gonna take an hour,
yeah,
you don't work for free.
right.
Oh, well.
Very much the way.
Those things would come to you for and you generate the dollar amounts?
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing.
Very, very, very detailed. I wish I could tell you I'm this good right now, though. I'm not. I'm not. Right now, Beam Team gets a report every day. Because I told Megan to do it. Okay? So, there are exceptions to the rule, but I want everybody to learn and live to, this is the SOW, this is all I do. And so Megan, as the project manager, when I went to her and said, hey, start providing this report on a daily basis, she'd be entitled to, and I would hope she'd come back to me and say, no, Jerry, that's not in the SOW. In the SOW, it says they're gonna use the portal.
Okay, so you're saying that future orders, things will change, this will be eliminated?
No, in our standard SOW, this is included, okay? And this will always be included, unless the customer defines up front, hey, I want this report. And so if they tell us that when we're building the SOW, we'll take that report, we'll put it in the SOW, and we'll say, this is the only report we will give you. We will give you this report on a daily basis by 5 PM, including these fields. If they then say, I want another field, or if it's like this and says no reporting, and they want any reporting, change order.
Okay.
Change order. So I would expect the PM to come back to me and say, no, Jerry, I can't provide them that report. It's not in the statement of work. You don't pay me to do that.
Right.
And then I would have told Megan, well, we really like them as a customer, and we want to grow the business with them, so we're gonna do this one gratis. But thank you for pointing that out, appreciate it. And
That's why I didn't say a word, I said whatever you want.
and I'd say it as non-sarcastically as possible.
But that kind of is a multi-beneficial thing because we're keeping track of what we're doing and our time, and we're helping because that's the financial growth of the company at the same time.
You got it. You got it. Okay.
Mhm.
So, Tiana, tie back to your life, okay? All the crap you do for AIG, ain't a single piece of that in an SOW.
Right.
You
You
know,
wanna make me
in
mad.
PM world, if you did what you do for AIG, I'd kill you.
So you wanna just come on get me now? Because I've been telling you, you are absolutely correct though.
Amanda was complaining about what you do.
Krista, did
She
you
had
hear
to
that?
do it.
Did you hear what Tiana just said?
What?
Say it again.
No, no,
Say it again. Come on, say it again.
No.
Come on, say it loud so Megan can
Tiana,
hear.
It's been recorded.
Oh,
It's on that
crap.
I don't think that you want to do this.
You don't.
You hung up on Megan. Say you got too excited. I
I
can't
got too
repeat
excited.
it. I cannot repeat it. Candace, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Take it back.
Please enter your password
Take it
followed
back.
by the pound.
I take it back.
Okay.
Thank you.
But Jerry's
Tiana,
absolutely
Tiana.
right though. Why
You
do, because they keep asking
Sorry,
for
Megan.
more and more and more and I
I'm
have
waiting
to
to
keep.
hear what she did.
She didn't say anything.
She
Megan.
said nothing.
She said
Tiana,
nothing. No,
Tiana's
she
gonna
didn't.
automatically, Tiana may get to survive after she leaves this training because she sided with Candace. However, she is gonna fail her test.
Is that?
Tiana's
rather her
gonna get a
fail the test.
special test.
I'd rather her fail the
She
test.
said Jerry was correct.
But she took it back. She took it back, Megan. She's still sane.
But no.
But no,
No,
exactly.
really though. Because
No,
it's not.
in all
Bend over
seriousness, you're
backwards
exactly
for
right.
AIG.
And also, like, really, because like that, and that's something that I stress in this, like, it doesn't matter how many tickets they have 2, they have 12, they have 40, they still want the same report, even though I'm still doing all this in it. So I get exactly why they have change orders in place. We should maybe implement that in the commercial world.
I feel like you should keep your mouth shut right now.
I do, change orders are
Okay.
great.
So you see the importance of it?
I do.
Glenn changes his mind so
Well, for
freaking
me,
much, but I'm
and
so glad he's
the
not as bad as
report that I
AIG.
do now, all it really does for me is it eliminates those emails where they ask me what's going on with it. Like, it stops them from having to ask me questions.
That's a really good point. So
Right,
how-
from her
so-
world though, but
so-
from mine, it doesn't benefit me because they have that portal that they see exactly what I see. So
So,
I'm literally like
The
reading to them.
advantage on the PM side, so one of the things we learned, and the reason I make Megan do the report, and every PM has to do this report, it's actually in this training guide, we could talk about it, it's the very last thing we talk about. The reason I make you do it, Megan used to run a project for Zales, okay, for NCR. And they would email us no less than 75 times a day, okay, on 20 calls.
Zales or the?
Zales, the jewelry store.
They would
NCR,
email?
NCR.
NCR
You
would,
roll
okay,
with them
right,
with
right.
NCR, right? So they would email us 75, we get 75 emails a day on 20 stores, okay? And it was always, what's going on with this, what's going on with this, what's going on with this, what's going on with this? We built this report that now we share and proactively send to them every morning,
No question.
that
Yeah.
stops those 75 emails,
Right.
okay? So
Because
that's,
the problem with that was, is they even had their own system, which was QuickBase, which was updated, they just didn't wanna look at it. They would rather open a spreadsheet and look at that.
AIG, it's no different.
But it made them
Same
not
customer
HP.
issue. HP don't wanna go look in the report. They want Tiana to give her a report. Same thing.
Mhm.
Okay? What's the question?
So, but it made them happy.
Exactly. And not only that, what Megan maybe will admit to, is that by sending that report, it made her life 10 times easier. It may take her 30 minutes to do the report, but it saved 75 responses to emails. So in all honesty, it makes her life easier.
Do we charge them more for
It
that?
does, because it is really hard to keep track of what you're doing when you have to answer an email every 5 seconds. So you get railroaded off of what you're trying to do. So with the report, it stops the emails, which keeps you organized and on track for your schedule for the day.
She could never get to confirms to actually call technicians and make sure they went because she was too busy telling NCR they went. They would email her so much, she was constantly in email, and by the time she responded to the 12th one, the 13th email was to ask about the first one again. And
Right.
she didn't even have a chance to stop to get out of Microsoft Outlook, to stop, pick up the phone and call somebody to see where the guy was. They were already emailing her again. And it was this vicious cycle. She could never respond fast enough.
Hey,
they
Terry.
can never have, they can never have information back.
And she is a project
So I
manager?
have a sales folder in my inbox, and from April to
Mhm.
the 1st of October, I received 6,822 emails just about sales.
We did 1,500 stores in the entire project from May through December.
Actually, almost.
She got 6,500 just in May through October.
That's ridiculous.
And then at what point did you guys decide to make this report, and who was the one who came together to collaborate that, to say, was it the program manager that stepped up to you and said, we gotta figure out something, because I'm about to go crazy?
Yeah, so Megan several times during that project came back and said, we gotta figure out something, I'm going crazy. We tried to help as much as we could just by responding to emails. The report just got developed 2 weeks ago, what, Chris, 3 weeks ago? We just started doing it. But now it's a daily ritual. I meet with all my PMs at 8:30 every morning. At 8 o'clock, they know they email me that report. I gotta have that report when I walk into that meeting at 8:30. I gotta be able to look at that report, because that report not only is gonna tell the customer what's going on, it tells me what's going on.
Right.
I know, oh shit, I got 3 calls tomorrow and they're not assigned yet. Oh shit, I got 12 installs running tomorrow and only 8 of them are confirmed, right? Whatever my problems are gonna be for the day, I can see it real quick on that report.
Right.
Instead of having to worry about the service call minutia, right? I can see it very easily on one page, one piece of paper, right? So some of the problems I think you guys have, Tiana, I know I had when I was in the commercial world, was you got a list of 80 calls, or 100 calls, 150 calls.
Right.
Which ones are the ones that are going wrong? I don't know, right? This project report, and we'll get to this, the very last thing we do, but this project report tells me, you know, one page, here's where my problem is, here's why I gotta go fix. Okay, Megan, you need more help in dispatch. Okay, Megan, you need more help in confirms. Oh crap, Megan, you had 2 no-shows yesterday, you're gonna need somebody to help you confirm, right? Whatever the issues are, we can fix them real quick, because I can see them, I know where the problems are, right? I wish we would have done this with Walmart and Home Depot. Walmart was 2,700 sites, Home Depot was about 1,000 sites. If I'd had this project report, I'd have known a week and a half ahead where the problem was. I didn't learn until it bit me, until we didn't show up, right? We walked into a day and we had 15 calls not assigned, right? So that's 15 no-shows. 15 $50 fees. That hurt.
Wow.
Yep, I lost a lot of fat. Got chewed off. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would say that if you cannot get ahold of the technicians and follow up on what's going on, that's almost, that's a
Item
huge
1.
priority.
It's item 1. If you can't do item 1,
Yeah. You don't need to be doing
done. Okay? All right, so we talked about reporting. All right, assumptions and client responsibilities. So in the NCR one, they had a section around what were NCR's responsibilities. Same thing here, right? Technicians are business casual attire. Beam team verifies part availability before arrival. Cancellations inside of 24 hours or revisits due to site not ready will entail a cancellation fee of 1 hour of service. So I love this sentence. Let me tell you why.
Where are you at?
4, 5, 6, 7. This page.
Pricing.
Yep. Megan's going through this project. Beam team's historically horrible at confirming if parts are really there. And if they are really there, the manager knowing where they are. Okay? Tech walks into the store and talks to the manager and says, hey, this thing should have arrived. We get 100 of those pallets a day. I don't know where that one's gonna be. Right? I can't do anything if you can't show me where the equipment is. I'm really busy. Okay, I'm busy too. I gotta do this thing, right? Gotta install these paper bag holders. I'm sorry, I'm really busy. Okay. This line right here allows me to charge for 1 hour of service every time that happens. Every time that happens, that technician's gotta call Megan. Megan picks up the phone, calls the project manager. Here's where we are. Typically, they tell them to leave the site. Okay, and I get to bill for an hour of service. Okay?
I have a question.
Y'all?
Lord. Since this is billed on a per site basis, that would be $300 So like if he goes there and the equipment's not there, it's $300.
No, it's just 1 hour of service, so I'd only be able to bill that $45.
Well, if you look in the pricing, it says rate, and then in parentheses per hour, and then it says $300 per site.
Good point, it shouldn't say per hour up there. See the second bullet? Any work needed
Yeah,
over
I
4
see
hours?
that.
Yeah, it shouldn't say per hour up there.
So this is per completed job,
Per site, yep, per site.
completed job, right?
Yep.
So what's your goal in paying that tech?
He typically will just get a trip fee.
I mean, in general speaking, like if it's 300 per site, you want to hit it the first trip, and then you want to pay that tech hourly at what rate?
No, I'm not paying him hourly, so the way and we'll talk about this during our dispatch process, but I always pay technicians the same way I bill. So if I bill per site, I pay per site. If I bill per asset, I pay, if I bill per asset, I pay per asset. If I bill per hour, I pay per hour. Whatever I bill, I pay in terms of type, okay? So I'm not gonna pay this guy hourly. I would pay him, we always pay 30%. So 10% is $30 times 3, $90. So my pay rate, my tech pay on this would be $90 a site. If he gets a revisit, I'd probably pay him I'd throw him $25 as like a customer not available fee. That's how I do it.
That saves you taking the liability of not actually getting all that money as a profit.
Yeah. Okay. But the key is, and we'll talk about it when we get to dispatch, key is I always dispatch and pay the same way. I always dispatch and bill the same way. And that's because the quantity of what I bill can go up or down, right? I bill per site, so I could do 10 sites or I could do 100 sites, right? I want, as that goes up and down, my tech pay to be able to flex with it. I don't want my tech pay to be hourly when I'm billing per site. Because if I'm billing per site, and something outside of my control makes him, or something inside of my control makes him stay, his billable meter is running and mine isn't. And that's when I start losing money, right? I don't wanna carry that risk. All right, miscellaneous terms and conditions, escalations. So we always identify escalation contacts. So in this one, I'm listed as the escalation contact, and the Joshua guy at B&T is listed as the contact. Okay. We also have a section that defines the change management process. Either party can request it. Party requesting will review the proposed change, determine whether to submit the request. Both parties review proposed change, approve it. Both parties will sign the change request. The B team will invoice client for any such charges. The investigation will determine the effect that the implementation of the change request will have on price, schedule, and other terms and conditions of the contract. This effect may be an addition or reduction in scope. It's important to remember, just because there's a change order doesn't mean that there's a change in price, okay? Change order could just be a change in schedule, okay? And there may be a zero price impact to a change order, but it's important that you get the change order signed because it defines things. i.e., let's go back to my Home Depot example with the red-green paper, okay? Me having a technician bring a red or green piece of paper to site would probably be a zero price impact, okay? I probably wouldn't have charged them. However, because I didn't get a change order signed, and they told us, and we acknowledged it, he now can use that as a reason to not pay for a store. Okay, so even though it may be a zero bill or a $0 change to the price, if you don't live to the conditions of the change order, it can result in non-payment.
Right.
All right, so that's why it's always important to do a change order, even if it's $0. At least you have it documented and you can execute to it. That make sense?
So, okay, so the Home Depot one,
Yep.
did it not state in there that red paper and stuff?
It's a red paper for DOA zone.
Oh, okay, okay, I see the difference.
Yeah. Okay, and that's the acceptance. All right, so then attachment A, change request form example. Okay, so this is what the Barrister change form looks like. Same type of information, same stuff that we need to capture. Just capture it there. Okay? Questions on that one? No?
So when we process these, the change request forms, are these things that, that need to be going through you at
So-
some point? Because you said before, outside of here, that you realistically don't want people coming to you constantly, da, 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 da. So if these were happening, are these something that as project managers, we are responsible for getting that done and making those necessary changes?
Yeah, so I like each one of my PMs to own their own change orders and to run with it. If you have a question, come ask. Don't know the rate to charge, come ask, we can go through it. Then, when we meet on a daily basis, that would be one you would tell me about, right? It would show up in our reporting, and so as we go through our reporting and say, oh, what's this? What happened with Just Energy? Oh, yeah, we showed up on site and the passwords weren't right.
Okay.
Oh, okay, did you get your change order? Yep, I did. Okay, cool, right? So we'll talk about it on a daily
Okay.
basis, just so I know what's going on,
Right.
right? And know from a programmatic perspective. But typically, change orders can be handled by you guys. The only thing you're gonna need from me is signature, right? So each one of them has to be signed. You guys obviously don't have signature power, I don't have signature power.
Right,
I have to
right,
bring it-
right.
I have to bring it to Debbie to go and get something.
So these are things that you want verbal, and do you want like written reports too of things?
So give me that, give me a better, rephrase that question.
Okay, well, there's multiple different things going on, multiple different changes and whatnot, and just putting up a short report to act as a second part with a verbal. You know what I mean? To go over.
Yeah, so.
So we would walk in, or I'm sorry, so I would walk in and say, here's the paper, and let me go over it and explain what's going on. But something visual that you would see, this is what I'm coming to you with this 30 minutes and going over with.
Yeah, so in that 30-minute meeting, in that daily or hour meeting every day, I'm looking at that report,
Okay.
right? Our daily report. And that report basically lists out every event that you're managing and
Okay.
then summarizes it by day.
Okay,
All the way
okay.
through. So as I look at that individual report for each individual project you may be managing,
Okay,
I can look at that and see, oh wait, something happened here. What happened here?
So there's
That's when you
reporting.
say,
Okay.
hey, you get, hey, I went and got a change order, da-da, okay, great, da-da-da, right? And
Okay.
and we go through it. But you'd be responsible for processing and managing your own change orders.
right,
Getting them signed, or getting them executed, getting them agreed to, getting them put together, and then getting them, attached. to
and
the
making sure
system,
that
right?
information is included in that daily report that you will receive either that next morning or the evening, whichever way you choose to
got it.
have those.
You got it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Where do we attach the change orders?
For the CDW ones that you're doing, just putting them in the folder is fine, right? You can attach them to the call and clear view as well, either one's fine. Just as long as I get my purchase order, the purchase order is really the key for CDW, we'll talk about that in a second, but that PO number needs to be put on the call.
Okay.
Put it in the PO number field, because that's what allows me to bill. Okay. All right, CDW statement of work, okay, so this is a custom EDC. Okay, so remember we talked earlier, services we performed, 3 types of kind of services that we do for CDW. One is non-custom EDC, one is complete custom SOW, one is custom EDCs, okay? This would define as a custom EDC. Okay, kind of that middle hybrid approach, if you would. Okay, it's gonna define the scope, define the specific tasks we're gonna go do. Assume the time that is required. say what we're responsible for and what the customer is responsible for. Define scheduling. And then breaks into service fees. Okay? Remember, this is one of those hybrid models, this custom EDC model, okay? So consultant fees will be calculated on a time and material basis. Invoiced amount of consultant fees will equal the rate applicable for a unit of service or resource, which they call a unit rate, times the number of units being provided, billable units, for each unit type provided by seller. The total estimated consultant fees of $169.05 is merely an estimate and does not represent a fixed fee. Neither the total estimated billable units of 3 nor the total estimated consultant fees are intended to limit the bounds of what may be requested or required to perform the services. Then on the very next page, it shows you a grid. Okay, remember, when we talked about our custom EDCs, we talked about everything was priced with rate categories, right? One of those rate categories was an engineer, okay? We charge $70 per hour for that engineer. We assume it's gonna be 2 hours, so it's $140, okay? Bunch of language right before this chart. That says, hey, this isn't a fixed price, it's a guide, da da da. However, if I'm gonna bill more than 2 hours, I need to go get a change order. I cannot bill more than 2 hours without a change order. Okay? Customer may say, it's time and materials, you don't need a change order. Not true. You said in this document that I sign and that you sign, I would only bill for 2. I understand you said time and materials and it's an estimate, blah, blah, blah. But this document says I'm billing for 2. I need to bill for 4, because my guy was there for 4 hours. Here's why, here's why, here's why. Change order. Okay? So Krista, when you're looking at these, right, so now it should come into picture a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You're going out to do a printer install, you show up, and the network's not ready, right? You now have this little document, right? And although it says time and materials, you need a change order, because it says 2 hours, and I was there for 4, right? You know your hourly rate, because it's the unit rate, right? That's $70. Your new unit rate is 4 instead of 2. Your new subtotal is $280 instead of $140, right? So you would get a change order for 2 billable units at $70 an hour for $140. Make sense?
Yes.
See how it all fits together?
And is that why on this first page it says that we don't sell time and materials to CDW? I mean, we do, but it's not your traditional
Right.
time and materials.
Right.
Got
When
it.
we say we don't sell time and materials, what that means is, we don't sell, we'll do anything you want for $75 an hour and bill you afterwards,
Right.
okay? CDW has a system set up using purchase orders that they have to cut me a purchase order for a fixed amount of money. If I'm gonna exceed that fixed amount of money, they gotta know about it. If I'm gonna go lower than that fixed amount of money, they typically need to know about it. It has to match perfectly. If it's not gonna match, they gotta know about it. Because otherwise, if you don't tell them, what happens is I'm gonna send them a bill for 4 hours. It's gonna get to their payable system, the PO's gonna say 140, our bill's gonna say 280, they're gonna say, sorry, I can't pay you. I only have a PO for 140, I can only write a check for 140.
So in that case, the change order would have to be followed by a purchase order?
Correct.
Okay.
So with CDW, everything is driven by a purchase order.
Okay.
Absolutely everything. You can have a signed change order, but without a purchase order, you can't bill it.
All right.
Or, I'm sorry, let me say better, they can't pay it. You can bill it all you want, they can't pay it without without a purchase order, okay? They do 2 things with their purchase orders. One, they will cut you a new purchase order, okay? So you'll have your original purchase order for 2 hours at 70, they'll cut you a new one for another 2 hours at 70. you will now have 2 purchase orders for that one service call.
Okay,
You need to open a second service call to tie to that second purchase order.
So they won't just eliminate one and then make it as the full
That's
amount?
their other option. So option 1 is they're gonna cut you a new purchase order, and you need to open a second call to tie to this second purchase order.
okay,
And 140 bills over here, 140 bills over here, for a total of 280. Okay,
Got
that's
it.
option 1. Option 2 that they use is they cancel, they have the original purchase order 140. They cancel this one and issue a new one. And the new one is at 280. That's the way I like them to do it. You don't have to open a second call, it's no foolishness.
right.
Second call, second
So,
purchase order.
option 2, we could just, let's say option 2, we have purchase order 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mhm.
And then they deleted that one and came up with the new one. I could just modify ticket 1 with purchase order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You got it.
All right. I like that option much better too. That keeps my ticket numbers down.
Makes it easier to manage. Sometimes the other third option, which they usually don't take, but sometimes they will, is they will add hours to a purchase order. Okay?
Yeah.
So instead of canceling and issuing a new, they can go ahead and take the same purchase order and say they bought 2 hours, right? So the purchase order is gonna be listed the same way this grid box is listed, okay? So on the purchase order, you're gonna see a SKU for engineer per hour, you're gonna see a unit price of 70, you're gonna see a quantity of 2 for $140,
Right.
okay? So the other thing they can do is add a third line or a second line to the purchase order that has the same thing all over again. And then you got 4 hours, 2.
Okay.
They don't usually do it that way, but sometimes they do.
So
However they have to do it in their system to make it work, it's fine with us. We just have to kind of accommodate.
All right.
So do you send, when you get the purchase order or whatever, do you send that to purchase orders at Barrister like we are taught to? or-
No, the purchase order goes to sales, it goes to CDW PO, and sales will process the PO straight to you.
Okay.
Okay? Questions on that? The next 2 pages, the next 3 pages, are kind of legal jargon. Okay, any more? All right, so since we started talking about CDW POs, I want to go through that whole process, okay?
Hey, are you done talking about change orders?
Yes,
You skip the part,
which one's that?
what do you do with it once you get it?
So we're gonna cover that a little bit, I'm sorry, so maybe I didn't answer your question right. So we're gonna cover that in the process documentation and the process discussion we had this afternoon. But basically, you can attach it to the call, or you can just put it in the folder, depending on if it's the authorization to bill or not.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so CDW and their purchase order process, okay? CDW will only pay you for what they have a purchase order for. Okay? They issue a purchase order, it gets sent over to you by sales, okay? If you're gonna change or exceed that purchase order in any way, shape, or form, you have to let them know, okay? You have to make them change it in some way, shape, or form. You're responsible for adhering to that PO. So if that PO comes over wrong, if your SAL says 4 hours, and that PO only authorizes you for 2, you're responsible for bringing it to CDW's attention to say, wait, this is for 2 hours, the SAL says 4, I need you to fix this PO. Hey, the SAL says 20 locations, the PO only says 15. Need you to fix it. Okay? You have to manage to those POs, okay? To the point where I'd almost tell you to build a tracker of every purchase order that comes over. What it's for, how much, how many, and then put in there what you're billing and what you're billing against it, and what you're using against it, okay? Sometimes purchase orders can extend over multiple calls, right? If a project is go install printers at 20 locations, you're gonna have one purchase order for 20 service calls. Okay? Sometimes it's hard to kind of keep up with that purchase order and make sure you're not exceeding it, make sure nothing's going on and all that kind of stuff. There's gotta be some level of management to keep up with that purchase order to make sure you're doing what that purchase order says. Okay? Candace, did you have a question? Is that a stretch?
That was a stretch. You got 10 minutes so far.
Do we
Okay,
create
thank
like
you.
an Excel spreadsheets to go along for that? So like the dollar amount would be in there and have each row have like this location, this location, this location, track your hours?
That'd be awesome. Be awesome. Yep. Don't have anything stipulated as part of the process, but that'd be an awesome
Makes
tool.
it easy, yeah.
So would you have in one for that many locations, you have a huge amount of, or should you expect to have a huge amount of change orders?
Run that by me.
Like you were saying, you can have one for 20 different locations. Should you expect to have, because like a lot of sites are different, right? It might be the same Walmart, but there are a lot of sites. So should you just expect to have a high volume of change orders with
Yes.
this? Okay.
Love that. The more locations you have covered in the scope, the more change orders you're gonna have.
Okay.
Yep. Because you're right, every site's gonna be different, every site's gonna have unique issues.
Right.
All that. Okay, questions? Alright, just real quick, I gave you guys a copy of the CDW scope documents, or the CDW EDC document, okay? These are the non-custom SKUs, okay? Each one of the SKUs, each one of the non-custom SKUs that we have defined has a specific scope attached to it, okay? So if you look at the first one, desktop, laptop, okay? There's a grid up top, there's some wording in the middle and some wording down at the bottom, right? Everybody see where I'm at? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. You will.
No, where was it at?
Next page.
Page
Flip
4.
on your other
31.
stack. Go two pages.
Oh, I thought we had one of those that were over here too.
It's probably in the original guide.
Right.
So this document right here is your scope. Okay? When we get a non-custom EDC, we do not get a sales to ops, and we do not get an SOW. When a non-custom EDC is sold, all we get is a purchase order. You're responsible for taking that SKU number off that purchase order, matching it to this document, and saying that's what I'm going to do. Okay? Remember, the glory of a non-custom EDC is they don't have to build this big elaborate SOW or anything like that. They can just say, I want 2 desktops installed. Great, here you go, buy this. Right? This is the quote-unquote SOW for that work. Okay? So the PO is gonna come over with this middle number, this manufacturer part number. BTR DU, or BTR DLI NS12. Okay? You're responsible for finding that number in this document, which is kind of the next 30 pages or so, right? This big stack. Knowing that that includes 2 units. Up to 2 units. Okay? It also includes us unpacking the desktop or laptop, sort the software, documentation, and hardware, connect the PC to existing AC power, neatly dress the cable, attach the cables that are customer provided from keyboard, mouse, monitor, and network, neatly dress them when possible, install up to 3 programs and 3 non-networked peripherals, check basic system functionality, basic connection to existing network via existing network jack or wireless router, configure email and load any necessary drivers, customer must have all necessary passwords, verify existing internet connectivity via web browser through a hard data connection to a switch router and wireless network connection if available. Once the installation is completed, we will remove packing materials to an on-site dumpster or other trash receptacle. Okay? What this doesn't include data loss. Customer will be called to schedule within 24 hours of receiving notification. Work will be scheduled within 72 hours of receiving equipment. All work will be performed under a single site visit. All work during normal business hours. Customer responsible for all data configuration backup. Work orders will be completed with a project sign-off form. Should work be required that is not included in the scope, a work addendum will be created. Customer will provide the technician with workspace, access to network, usernames and passwords, and configurations required to perform the work. Configuration of customer requirements other than the basic configuration will be charged an hourly rate. Okay? So, what happens is, 6 months from now, you get a PO. You're a project manager for CDW. You get a PO. It will have it will have several things on it. Customer name, customer location, address information, all that. It'll have a manufacturer part number and a quantity. You need to be, and that's all you get. You take that PO, you match that part number to this document, and then you go live to these scopes, the scope that's on this page. If the customer asks you to be responsible for migrating their data, change order. Customer asks you to do it in 2 different visits, change order. Customer asks you to do it inside of 72 hours, change order. The customer asks you to configure the custom requirements, change order. Customer wants you to install 5 software packages, change order. Okay? These non-custom EDCs are very simple to sell. They're very simple on our sales guys because all they gotta do is take the purchase order and send it to us. But you guys, the process you guys follow does not change. You guys still have to live to a statement of work. It's just, you won't get the statement of work when you get the purchase order. The statement of work is predetermined. You just live off of this workbook. Make sense? Everybody understand these non-custom SKUs? So Krista, right now from Katrina, she just sends you a purchase order. It says non-custom EDC. It's in this document. You open that purchase order, it's got a manufacturer's part number on it. You go find it in this document. Okay? If you flip to the very end of this scope document, the last 3 pages, sample CDW purchase order.
Oh, that last one was the
Lyric,
invoice?
this one's for Lyric Opera. Last 3 pages of the scope document. We ain't going too far.
It's right up to page 31.
Okay? So this is all you get. If we're doing a non-custom EDC, you get these 3 pieces of paper and that's it. Customer name, customer address, is where you're going to deliver it. BTR STD4, that's the SKU number. Contact name, contact email, contact phone. You're responsible for knowing BTR STD4 is on-site support for 4 hours and living to that scope. Okay? gonna exceed $140, this PO ain't gonna be valid anymore. Gotta get a new one or get them to change it. Okay? Make sense?
If a purchase order like this requires a change order, they send you a new purchase order agreement?
Well, they're gonna do one of two things. They're gonna void the original purchase order and send you a new one.
Right.
Or they're gonna send you, they'll do one of three things. Typically, they will send you a new purchase order, void the first one and send you a new one.
Okay,
Secondly, what they could do is keep the first one and just put the change on the second one. Okay, so, for example, this one's for 140. Say you had to get it to 280 because you had another 4 hours.
right.
Okay, they would either cancel the first one, issue a new one for 280. Keep the first one, but issue a new one for 140, so that we combine their 280.
Okay,
Or cancel both, or change the first one.
to two.
They'll add a second line to the first one, that gets it to 280.
Okay,
Okay, honestly, I can't tell you the pattern that they follow, I haven't been able to figure it out, but
Now, you said the BTR, what does that stand for?
STD4,
BTR STD4 stands for?
that's the SKU number that you can find in your
Oh,
SKU
of
document.
those?
Yep, manufacturer part number.
Okay, okay, so this is. Part number. And this is the exact 4 hours.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's their
important.
description. Make sense? All right, questions? Talked about a lot of shit this morning.
Actually, I do have a question.
Okay.
Back on, and I'm just gonna backtrack a little bit, on the last, SOW, it said that, so it wasn't the project scope,